Hello everyone, my name is Stan Roderick and this is a presentation about situational awareness, self-protection and all the factors involved in that. First, I'd like to apologise if there's any noise that you can pick up. I am actually in Brazil and it's a Sunday, so everyone's out and all the advertisement cars are out as well. So without further ado, let's have a look. So S.H.I.E.L.D. S.H.I.E.L.D. is an acronym. It stands for Spot Hazard Indicators and Evaluate a Level of Defense. And we'll get into it now. So spot hazard indicators. So what are hazard indicators? Well, we all know that a hazard is something that has potential to do us harm, but no one wants that to happen. We need to avoid this by spotting the hazard before it poses a threat to us. This is why we need to understand that the indicators, what they are, and be ready to evaluate our level of defense. So what are the indicators? And there you have it. This is the secret to self-protection. Situational awareness is the key to spotting hazard indicators. By setting up a base level of normal behavior in all situations and environments, you have a greater chance of spotting any anomalies and possible hazards. So how do we set up a base level of normal behavior? Become more conscious of your surroundings and everything in it. Genuinely take note of the sounds and activities during your daily routines. By consciously paying attention, you're training your brain and your sixth sense to scan everything around you. The more you do this consciously, the more your brain will learn to do this unconsciously. Even look at the non-verbal communication between people within your environment. Look at the facial expressions and the body language. Study this next time you're out in a public environment. So this is how we set a baseline or a base level for normal behavior. And be aware. Not only do we need to be aware of our environment, but we also need to be aware of the situations that can make us vulnerable. After all, vulnerable prey is far more appealing to a predator. Be aware of your situation. Don't make yourself vulnerable. A busy high street on a Saturday afternoon is a very different place 12 hours later. Unfortunately, not enough people are aware of the situations they walk into. This is not entirely their fault. The predator is incredibly cunning and will use dialogue and distraction as their main weapons to make you vulnerable. Now that you have a base level for normal behavior, any anomalies or behaviors that do not fit into this will become obvious to you. They will stand out. Science has taught us that our brains scan every bit of information around us. It filters out all unnecessary details. We don't need to focus on every leaf to know it's a tree. We have seen a tree before and our brain recognizes it's a tree. It's the same for training our brains to recognize normal behavior within our environment. If anything stands out, our attention will be directed towards it for further investigation. Science has many studies to prove this. Evolution, however, has taught us if something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. When we think of predators, we can use a variety of adjectives to describe them: big, scary, fierce, etc. The one thing most predators have in common is they are relatively easy to spot. Nature has given us warning signs: big teeth, claws, markings, and many ways for us to identify them as dangerous. But how can we spot a predator that is human? Unfortunately, humans are one of the few species that actually preys on its own kind. The human predator doesn't look any different from any other human. So how can we identify them? When a predator chooses their prey, they look for the most vulnerable. This could be an elderly one, a weak one, an injured one, or even one that has strayed from the herd. This gives the predator a greater chance of success, with little chance of the prey fighting back and causing injury to the predator. The predator will scan the herd looking for the most vulnerable and the easiest target. The same is true of human predators. They will select the most vulnerable as their target. Now here I have a picture of a zebra or zebra. And the reason that it is marked the way that it is so that it's camouflaged within the herd. So it doesn't stand out. It looks the same as every other zebra. The lion or any other predator that's hunting it is camouflaged. It's well camouflaged for the grassy plains that it's in, so it can creep up and get close. But the zebra is camouflaged against all the other zebra, so it doesn't stand out. There was a study done where they were trying to find out, which zebra was which, and they put a big red circle on one of the hindquarters of the zebra. And that one was the one that was attacked by lionesses because it stood out. It went wrong, unfortunately, but Yeah, it looked different than the other herd. It was no longer camouflaged within the herd, and it was selected. So, continue. Some situations are obvious. You may have instigated a situation that has become confrontational. This verbal exchange has the potential to escalate and become a physical threat. Be aware of your own behavior and the way it directly affects your situation. Don't get caught up in ego. Your behavior will affect their behavior, which in turn affects your behavior, which affects their behavior, and round it goes. The situation isn't necessarily with a predator, but it's good practice to be aware of all behavior, including your own. Instinct. So, when meeting people for the first time, we usually make assumptions about them with our subconscious very quickly. How do we do this? We do this by how we feel in their company. This feeling comes from lots of information and data processing our brains are doing during this interaction. Their appearance, how they communicate, past histories and possible similarities, their tone of voice, body language, and even their smell will be processed and evaluated in mere moments. Have you ever had the feeling you didn't like someone but couldn't put your finger on why? Dialogue and distraction. If you have been targeted by the predator, they have a goal in mind. They have targeted you for whatever purpose, and now will use their cunning to make you vulnerable so they can fulfill their goal. They will try to distract you with dialogue. They may appear charming, friendly, even trustworthy. Ask yourself questions and question their intent. If something doesn't feel right, then it probably isn't. This is your brain assessing all the information and warning you to be aware of the situation you are in. So here's a little checklist. When am I most vulnerable? You need to ask yourself these questions. What is my mental state? Where am I? Am I alone? Who is this person I'm talking to? Can I move to a well-lit area if I'm in a shady, shadowed area? Have I been drinking? This will affect my personality, my behavior, how I respond, how I walk, how I move. Is this place dangerous? Am I being followed? Why am I talking to them? What are my resources for escape? It's important to assess every situation with a conscious mind. It's not paranoia, it's just situational awareness. Evaluate. So, if you have found yourself in a situation where you start to feel uncomfortable, don't panic. Just take a breath and begin to evaluate the situation. By breathing and focusing on the breath, we can engage our conscious mind, which has been briefly hijacked by fear or panic. Now, assess all the information and evaluate your choices for escape. So, with the assessment and evaluation, now is the time to assess your situation. Your ultimate goal is to escape unharmed and as quickly as possible. First, assess the threat level. Next, evaluate your resources and your level of defense. And then lastly, escape. It is very important that you assess the threat level of the situation you're in. There may be legal consequences regarding your response. If you feel a genuine high-level threat to your safety, then you must be able to articulate how you came to the conclusion that you were in an imminent danger. With lower level threats, it's good practice to monitor these situations as they could escalate quickly. Either way, remember your goal is to leave the situation unharmed. Level of defense. Now you have assessed the situation, it's time to evaluate your resources and your level of defense. Your resources are your ability to de-escalate a situation or to find tangible objects within your environment that will aid in your main goal of escape. You may be able to avoid any possible hazard by simply moving away. If you spot the indicators early enough, you can just leave that area and the situation with it. If, however, you have a high level threat to your safety, then you may have to locate improvised weapons to give you the best chance of escape. Now, a classic example would be anything you can pick up. You can use it as a defensive shield, or you can use it to keep your attacker at bay, or even to attack your attacker if you feel that your life is definitely in danger. So, physical defense. I've never known a self-defense system that ensures the person being threatened will be unharmed or even be able to dominate their aggressor. It just isn't possible to have one technique that will be viable for people with height, weight, and strength deficiencies against a physically more powerful or even more cunning aggressor. Of course, there's lots of instructors will tell you that their system works, and maybe some techniques will be applicable to you. Just please take care when researching potential self-defense or martial arts clubs. Just because the large male instructor can show you the technique works, doesn't mean that you could make it work. Fight to survive. If your life was in imminent danger, you would think it would be a natural response to fight for it. Fight for your life. After all, if we hold our breath underwater for too long, we rush to the surface in a desperate attempt to take a big breath of fresh air. It can be a panic, a fight to get to the surface, a fight to survive. But this isn't always the case when we are suddenly faced with a truly real and sometimes shocking hazard. Every one of us is a complex human being. We have our own histories, and these will often determine how we react to a sudden and hazardous situation. I imagine you've heard the phrase fight or flight, to stand and fight or to run away, a natural response to an imminent threat. Well, would it surprise you to know that the most common response from us complex humans is to freeze, to literally freeze and not move? This is all due to the way our brain works, but this frozen moment can be broken, and you can retain your brain to become much more reactive in such situations. It can be as easy as breathing, just to break the freeze. That's literally it. Focus your attention on your breath, and this will help you regain cognitive function again. If you don't believe me, watch someone before they do a bungee jump. You will see them taking a few big breaths before they jump. You are important. If I asked you how far and what you would do to defend yourself, you would probably give me your own answer. But what if I asked you how far you would go to protect your mother, your sister, or even your child? I'm certain the answer will be a more emotionally fueled response. The thing you have to remember is that you are so important to those people who love you. They couldn't bear to lose you. You have to give your own survival the same amount of emotional importance as you give to those you love. Don't ever let anyone take you away from them. Not ever. We all know that if we are harmed physically and that if we have a wound, we will have a scar, a permanent reminder of that moment. But if we have a confrontation with another person, we can have mental scars too, an emotional wound that replays the event over and over. Studies have shown that those who suffered physical abuse but fought back were better prepared to heal these emotional wounds. They did everything they could to fight back, so we're not haunted by thoughts of, I should have done this, or why didn't I do that? My point is, fight back, always. The beauty of techniques I've laid out in the previous text is that anyone can and really should apply them to their daily routines. So there's no need for membership, a certain fitness level, or age. Anyone can utilize the information here to carry out their lives in a more aware state that is genuinely natural. It's the reason we have evolved. The ones that were not aware of their environment, unfortunately, didn't make it. But the ones who were consciously aware of the hazards within their environment adapted and learned to survive in a world far crueler than the one we enjoy today. So, as a recap, S.H.I.E.L.D, spot hazard indicators and evaluate level of defense. Situational awareness, make this become natural. Just be aware of your environment and everyone and everything in it. Base levels of normal behavior. Set a standard, set a base level of normal behavior where you can see how normal people interact with each other. Take time to read these situations, read the environments, give people a story as they're walking along and you're drinking your coffee. Are they running off to work? Is this person and this person good friends? Are they relatives? Are they strangers? You can make your own assumptions from this, but from it you will learn a base level of normal behavior. Any anomalies that happen within this environment, you will be alerted to, and you can investigate further. The predators and their tactics. Call them predators because they prey. You know, these people, we call them predators, and that's what I'm referring to them here. So we understand the predator's process. They need you to be vulnerable. They will use all sorts of tricks that they have to make you vulnerable, move you to another area, let your guard down, but appear charming, all this sort of stuff. Don't be super paranoid about these people, but just be aware that if you've got a feeling, trust that feeling and move away from them as soon as possible. Instinct, always trust your instincts, always trust your instincts and investigate. Like I said in the previous chapters, our brain takes in so much information at once. It definitely does. It's got lots of stuff to process. If we've been looking at the base levels of normal behavior, any anomaly within that environment or within the person you're talking to, you'll be alerted to, and you have to investigate further. Why? Ask questions, keep your distance. Just be aware, trust your instincts always. The checklist, remember the checklist. Are you vulnerable? You know, what is your mental state? Have you made yourself vulnerable by putting yourself in an area you didn't really mean to? All these sort of things, just run through that checklist, rewatch it and have a look. So evaluate, use your conscious mind to assess and evaluate. Remember, if you're scared, if you're nervous, take a deep breath. Just take a deep breath, assess your situation. If someone's following you, maintain distance, stop, turn around, say to them, excuse me, can I help you? This will create a response. They will either, if their intention is not good, they may abort it and walk off because you maintain distance, or they will act. My point is that you're not going to be walking terrified. You've stopped, evaluated the situation. Hopefully 9 times out of 10, that person that is following you will say, oh, you know, no, you don't know me, sorry, and be off on their way. But at least you've preempted, you've done something. The threat level, your primary goal is to escape. Okay, primary goal is to escape, depending on that threat level. Some instances you can just move, so you're in a crowded train, it's kicking off, people are arguing and shouting, or there's someone there that makes you feel uncomfortable, just move. Level of defense, so do what is necessary to escape, always. So this may be implementing resources that are available to you, so improvised weapons or shields, something like that. But whatever it is that you can do, make sure you do it to escape. If you have to become an animal, become an animal. There's plenty of techniques that you can learn at self-defense classes. Out of 10 techniques, 2 might work for you. Just practice and drill those as best you can. So, in conclusion, this presentation was just a brief introduction into self-protection. There's always more to learn and practice, definitely. The information here is designed by me to alter both your mindset and perspective about the world in which we live. I hope by understanding the advice and tips given to you today, you apply them to your daily life and see the world with